Hello my spooky friends, it has been quite a while, hasn't it, since I've done a Spooky Sunday video here on my channel. So in honor of bringing Spooky Sunday back, I am going to be talking about my most favorite paranormal and spooky thing in the entire freaking world, which is Mothman. So if you guys are ready to hear all about the Mothman, then hold on tight because there's a lot to cover here. And let's go ahead and jump right on in. So it has been quite a while since I have done a Spooky Sunday video. I believe it's probably been about a month, and I personally apologize for that because I feel really bad because I know some of you guys do actually really enjoy my Spooky Sunday videos, and I really enjoy making them, and I enjoy telling you guys about creepy and cool stuff. But for a while, I just wasn't really inspired to do it every single week. I think it was kind of hard for me to not come up with ideas for spooky stuff because I know like so many different spooky topics and alien related things and creepy things to talk about because I'm weird like that and look into this kind of stuff when I'm bored. But I kind of took a break from looking into this kind of stuff, to be honest, because, I don't know, sometimes when you look into too many dark things, it can kind of mess with your head a bit, so I just needed a little bit of a break from all the spookiness. But alas, I am back, and Spooky Sunday is back, but instead of doing Spooky Sunday every single week, I think I'm gonna end up doing Spooky Sunday every other weekend. So this way you'll get 2 Spooky Sunday videos a month, and during the rest of the month I have so much makeup content here on my channel that it's hard to keep up. So that is basically how the schedule is going to be, and I'm gonna make sure that my Spooky Sunday videos are a little bit better quality, you know, making them a little bit more interesting for you guys. So I hope that you are looking forward to newer, less frequent Spooky Sunday videos that will be more informative and more exciting. So I figured, you know, we're kicking off Spooky Sunday again, so why not start with a bang here with my absolute favorite topic, which is Mothman. And if you guys don't know who that is, then you are in for a treat because he is my favorite. So Mothman is a cryptid. He's basically kind of like a Bigfoot type creature where people have claimed to have seen him since 1966. People have claimed to see him kind of all over, and some people think that he is a bringer of destruction, and some people think he's an alien, some people think that he is a good guy who warns people when destruction is about to happen. Now this all takes place in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and this basically all started in 1966. Everything started on November 12th in the middle of the night when 5 gravediggers were digging a grave out in the open in West Virginia when they all claimed to have seen a giant moth-like man with glowing red eyes fly over them and basically scare the living crap out of them. And that is when the very first sighting of Mothman was ever reported. Shortly thereafter, on November 15th, 1966, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Mallet, told police that they saw a large gray creature whose eyes glowed red when the car's headlights picked it up. They described it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings following their car while driving in an area outside of town known as the TNT area, the site of a former World War II munitions plant. Now, what's really interesting about this incident and this run-in with the teens is that the first thing that they did when they basically saw Mothman is they didn't really think that it was anything. They kind of just thought that it was another car coming at them because Mothman allegedly has these really, really round, big, bright, glowing red eyes. And they just thought it was another car that was kind of coming towards them, so they didn't really think much of it, and they actually ended up passing by Mothman. And it basically made them do a double take. They kind of looked around and were like, that wasn't a car. So they turn around, drive by Mothman yet again, and this time he makes a super loud, high-pitched squeaking noise that sounded to them like radio static, and I quote that. So obviously after the second turnaround there, they were scared out of their minds. So they go over to the police department in the local area and immediately report this sighting to the police, and they were shooken up by the police. They all took lie detector tests and they all passed the lie detector test. None of them were actually lying about what they saw. They were all legitimately shooken up over seeing Mothman and were scared to the point where they didn't even go home. They went straight to the police. Now, very soon after the first and second sighting of Mothman, people started seeing Mothman everywhere, and there are countless reports of Mothman from around that time in West Virginia, and it even branched into some other states, but let's just talk about West Virginia here. People would claim that they would see Mothman basically flying around their house in the middle of the night. One lady even claims that he came into her house and apparently tried to take her baby, which is very odd and not very believable sounding. But what is interesting is that a lot of the people who claim to have these run-ins with Mothman were never really the same after. They claim that Mothman would make things staticky around them, and some of them even claim that Mothman gave them some sort of like psychic ability, if you want to call it that. Basically, some of these people who ran into Mothman developed these intuitions where they were able to basically intuitively kind of predict the future, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they became psychic or anything, but maybe, just maybe, he heightened their intuition, if you will, which is not very obscure because a lot of people have that. In fact, I'm one of them who has that weird intuition where you can almost kind of predict what's going to happen, or maybe you're manifesting it. I don't personally know what it is, but apparently Mothman was able to do that for some people. Now, let's face it here, any old person can call up the police and report a sighting of some creepy bird moth creature with glowing eyes. Anyone can report just some fake animal, right? But the weird thing about all of these sightings and reports is that these people did not know each other even in the slightest. These were people from all over West Virginia, even people that were in different states, and they were reporting the same exact thing around the same exact time. And it wasn't like these stories were just similar. People were legitimately reporting the same exact thing, that there was a 10-foot black figure with a large wide wingspan that was about as big as him, had a rounded head with no neck, with giant glowing red eyes that would fly around from tree to tree outside of their house or just be in some random foresty type area. Everyone reported the same exact thing, and people reported from all over West Virginia about having these run-ins with the Mothman and about developing these strange psychic-ish type of intuitions. And these were not the times of the internet, folks. This was the time when you had to pick up a newspaper to be able to read about the newest things that were going on and the newest scares that were happening in America and in the world in general. It was the time when you had to mail people and wait a week to be able to talk to someone if you didn't have a phone. This was not the time when information was just accessible just right out of the blue the second it happens. This was the time when things took a long time to actually travel around. And some of these reports that came in were coming in back to back, so there was no really way for them to know via the internet or via a newspaper or anything like that, because it hadn't even been printed in the newspaper yet. Now, what makes Mothman as a cryptid stand out from a lot of the other cryptids that we have in the lore of monsters and whatnot is something that happened with a very tragic accident and a bridge. On December 15th of 1967, the Silver Bridge in West Virginia collapsed and 46 people tragically lost their lives. Now, what connects Mothman to this bridge collapsing and this bridge tragedy just in general is that people saw him sitting on top of the bridge just hours before it happened, and someone was actually able to grab a photo of the alleged Mothman, and this is one of the most famous pictures of a cryptid. Basically, besides the one of Bigfoot walking away, this is probably like the second most famous cryptid photo ever taken. And photo analysts have looked at this photo and have proven that this has not been tampered with, but of course this was taken in 1967, so I don't really think they could tamper very much with it. Now, according to the townsfolk in Point Pleasant and just in West Virginia in general, that was allegedly the last sighting of Mothman ever seen in that area again. No one ever really reported him showing up at their house in the middle of the night and flying over them and scaring them with his giant red eyes. That was basically the last sighting of him. People didn't see him again after that. Now, people have claimed to have seen him basically since all of that happened, but just in different parts of the world. Allegedly, people think that right before the Chernobyl accident happened in the 80s, apparently people saw him flying around in Ukraine. Who knows how credible that is, but that's some information that's out there. In 1999, allegedly, people saw him flying around outside before a very famous apartment bombing happened, and apparently people have just seen him kind of all over right before tragic things happen. And that's why people think that he's either a bringer of destruction or someone who warns of incoming destruction. Now, there have been so many different reasonable explanations that have come to light as far as what Mothman might be. A lot of people think that he's a sandhill crane. Many people try to write it off as just a barnyard owl that was just really, really big, but this thing was 10 feet long and had a 10 feet long wingspan with bright red glowing eyes to the point where people thought it was an oncoming car. I don't think that's a crane, and a lot of people don't think that's a crane, but some people out there do believe that this is easily explainable, but I'm not one of those people, okay? I'm a believer in the Mothman. And if you go to Point Pleasant, West Virginia nowadays and you try to say that it was just a crane, I think they might kick you out of the entire city because they, like, practically worship the Mothman. They have statues, they have an annual Mothman festival every year. They freaking love the dude, and they have all sorts of cool stuff there. It's kind of like a tourist trap, if you will. They even have Mothman pizza. Yeah, Mothman pizza, you heard that right. So they love the Mothman, and honestly, I would be like the happiest girl in the world if I went there because it would just be so fun. If you ever go there, if you're ever near the area, I definitely suggest driving by just to see the life-size metal statue that they have of Mothman because it's pretty interesting looking. He's got chest hair. The metal statue has chest hair. Now, one theory about who Mothman is and what his purpose is that I personally think that he might be an alien. That would make sense. I mean, if he allegedly gave these people these kind of psychic, like telekinetic kind of powers, then what kind of earthborn type creature is going to do that? I know it's a stretch to some of you, but I think that Mothman might actually be an alien, and that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And over the years, Mothman's basically become a giant pop culture icon. He's even been in video games. Like the most recent Fallout game, Mothman was in that, and they even had Point Pleasant and the Silver Bridge in the actual game, which was so freaking cool to see. It was just the coolest thing I think they could have done. But if you are interested in the Mothman story and you want to hear more proof or more examples of people who had run-ins with him and how convincing some of their stories and their basically run-ins are, then I definitely suggest Googling and looking it up because it's a really, really interesting story, and it's really interesting to see and hear about all these people who had no contact with each other but were telling the same exact story. It's super freaky, but super cool. Just like the Mothman himself. But whether or not you believe that the Mothman is real, or if you believe that he was just a sandhill crane, or if you just believe that everyone who believes in the Mothman is crazy, I hope that you enjoyed the video nonetheless, and that is going to be wrapping up this week's Spooky Sunday. Like I said, I will be doing Spooky Sunday probably every other week. Maybe I'll skip a week here and there. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm definitely going to be doing the videos still, just not as frequently, but I still really hope that you enjoy them and that you tune in to watch them, because I really do like making them. But with that being said, if you are not already subscribed and you would like to be, then I would absolutely love it if you would hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed hearing about Mothman, or you are just a Mothman lover like me, then go ahead and give me a big old thumbs up. But I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful and slightly spooky day wherever you are, and thank you so much for spending your time here today. I hope to see you next time. Bye!